Infiniti's bestseller gets an important refresh for 2026 at a crucial time in the three-row crossover market. With a lot of manufacturers selling vehicles of this size, Infiniti can get lost in the shuffle. But with a new update, maybe things change. Today we're introducing the 2026 Infiniti QX60 Autograph. As you can tell, new looks, new paint color. There might be some new stuff for the interior as well. In today's video, we're going to check out what the 2026 model has to offer. We're going to check out the exterior, the interior, take it out for a quick test drive, and see why, if you're looking at buying a three-row crossover right now in 2026, maybe now is the time to take a look at the new QX60. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to Infiniti of Norwood in Norwood, Massachusetts, for letting me come down here to check out the Infiniti QX60. I also want to give a huge shout out to Adam, who's the general manager, for once again letting me feature this model. Their link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Infiniti inventory. So as always, let's begin with that pricing. For the 2026 Infiniti QX60 we have today, this is the Autograph, which will sit at the top of the trim levels for this model year, much like we had last year, giving us a starting cost of just over $66,100. Now, this is going to be a mid-cycle refresh, so not many major changes here that you'll have to get accustomed to for this vehicle if you currently own an older QX60 model or you're looking at a 2025. However, with this mid-cycle refresh, we have an aesthetic look that I think really fits this model with the squared off body lines and striking looks to this crossover. So up front, you are going to receive a new grille design. We first saw this on the QX80, gives you more of an upscale and I think a luxurious appearance, really fitting the price tag for the QX60 Autograph. And with this grille, you will have that new Infiniti emblem, which is 3D and illuminated. And that will also match the illuminated side sills when you open up those doors. And then, not as noteworthy or going to be screaming and shouting at you, there has been a slight cosmetic refresh for the bumper itself, giving you more striking body lines. You're also going to find those dark chrome accents once again for that front bumper, and thankfully there's not a lot of cladding here. So this is a sleek looking vehicle. Now, before we continue on towards the side profile though, you are going to have deep emerald green for this particular QX60. It's a new color for this model year. I think it looks really nice. Also blends in with the trees in this forest that we're in right now. You're also going to have the gloss black tops. The two-tone look, again, gives you that sportier appearance. And with that, you will have gloss black side mirror caps with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. And these side mirror caps do power fold. As we continue on, let's talk about these new wheels. They're in a darker finish. They're 20-inch alloys. Now, I know some of you are going to be talking about the fact that with the 20-inch wheels, road noise should be a bit more egregious and loud. Maybe the ride quality isn't going to be as nice, but we do have Bridgestone lenses here, so they're going to have a bit more of a quieter and softer experience. You're going to enjoy this vehicle a bit more here for 2026. Now, what you're also going to probably be talking about here is the fact these wheels are not bright chrome. There's not a lot of brightness to this vehicle, and some of you might be complaining about that. I think there is some inspiration for that sport trim that will be new for 2026, but if you're looking for some brighter chrome, some brushed aluminum accents, you might want to go lower in the product line for the QX60 for 2026. Then as you make your way around to the back, before we even get to the taillight design and new rear bumper, you're going to have the Autograph emblem stamped into the seat pillars, which is a really, really nice touch. We saw that with the QX80, so I'm really glad to see a lot of these elements are making their way into the more affordable vehicles in the Infiniti lineup. Now, you are going to have LED taillights as well. Again, hasn't been touched here for 2026. You're going to have the darked out chrome for the Infiniti badge, QX60 badge, and then that four-wheel drive emblem as well. And then for the lower portion of the rear bumper, a new look. That is right. So first off, you're going to notice that you can tow here with the QX60, 6,000 pounds. So you're going to have that capability you're looking for. But now we don't have those fake exhaust vents that we had for 2025 because the exhaust outlets are tucked beneath the bumper for that cleaner appearance. But overall though, for 2026, I think this is one good-looking vehicle, even with a minor cosmetic refresh. And while we're back here, let's take a look at the rear cargo area once again to see what the QX60 is offering here and how it compares to some rivals. So as you would expect with the Autograph, you are going to have a power liftgate. And inside, behind the third row seat, you're looking at right on 14.5 cubic feet of room. You guys know me, I don't like having less than 20 cubic feet of room, especially when I have all my camera gear today. Now, interestingly enough, it does fit. everything fits here. I have 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and I can still stack on more items as well. So if you are going on a quick grocery run, you should be able to do that with kids in the 3rd row. But I think more importantly though, before we continue on checking out the cargo area behind the 2nd and 1st row, you do have a spare tire beneath the QX60, so that way if you do encounter a flat on those road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Proceeding forward, as we lower the 3rd row seats, you're looking at right on 41.5 cubic feet of room, which is very competitive with the Mazda CX-90 and the Acura MDX. So you're going to have a lot of practicality here if you're only using this vehicle with the 2nd row. Now, when the 2nd row seats are folded, you're looking at right on 75.5 cubic feet of room. So ultimately, what you have here with the QX60 is a very practical, spacious, and family-friendly vehicle. If the luxury aspects, the new design weren't enough, it's going to be the practicality that will have you coming back for more with this model. Carrying over from 2025 is going to be a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Producing 268 horsepower and 286 pound-feet of torque, it is paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission. Now, by going with the Autograph, all-wheel drive will come standard for better year-round capability and versatility. Interestingly enough, though, for a crossover of this size and in its market, you're looking at a ground clearance of 6.7 inches. So it's not really the most off-road capable if you're looking for something like that out of Infiniti. This is going to be a on-pavement crossover, and it does that very, very well. Now, probably more importantly is going to be that fuel economy, because as we have found out numerous times in this segment, manufacturers are dropping the V6s for turbo force for better efficiency. So you're looking at right on 22 miles per gallon in the city and 27 miles per gallon on the highway, which really isn't that bad for a 3-row crossover in this market. But maybe at some point in the future, we'll get a hybrid powertrain from Nissan and Infiniti to give us better fuel economy overall. Hopping inside the QX60, the upscale styling continues once again with inspiration from the QX80, now giving us the Klipsch audio system with speakers in the headrest. This is a huge highlight for this model in a very competitive segment. This once again lets you know that Infiniti is rather serious about having an upscale driving environment for all of their models. And this is where Infiniti is at their best. On top of all of this, with the Autograph trim, you are going to receive power adjustable, heated, ventilated, and massaging semi-aniline leather seats that are quilted for both the driver and passenger, with both sides having memory seat functionality. On those longer road trips, on those weekday commutes, you are going to be very comfortable here in this model. And it's not just the seats either, because a lot of these luxury brands, especially at around $50,000 to $60,000, might cut some corners. But with the Infiniti QX60, there's soft touch materials not only on the door panels and the center console, but also on the dashboard. And you have that quilted design once again making its way in front of you. Very classy and unique in this market. Now, there's also one minor revision for the interior, and you're going to notice some accents on the dashboard for the passenger side. But everything does carry over from 2025, which is not a bad thing at all, although I would like to see the QX60 get the QX80 technology. But then at that point, you're probably spending $70,000 or $75,000. So this might be a happy medium and the right package for this particular model. In front of you are going to have a leather-wrapped steering wheel, which again gives you a nice quality feel to this vehicle. And then better yet is going to be that full digital gauge cluster in front of you, which made its way onto this model a few years ago. The functionality is the exact same if you are joining me from last year's reviews for the QX60, so we're not going to take a deep dive into that today. But what I will say though is that the resolution and quality is most certainly on par with many rivals in this market. I also think that this digital gauge cluster is a bit more intuitive than what you're going to find in Acura and Lexus. So this is really great to see. Also showing up on your digital gauge cluster is going to be your drive mode selector. Now that button will be found on the center console. From here you are going to have Sport, Auto, Eco, Snow, and Tow. So you'll be able to take on the elements, tow a small boat, and also have some fun on some winding back roads. Then taking a look at the infotainment system, you are going to have a Google-based software here, which we're seeing a lot of now in the Infiniti product line. We saw it with the QX80, and this is a welcome to addition to this vehicle. I think the technology that Infiniti and also Nissan is starting to put into their vehicles is most certainly a step above where they were a couple of years ago. Functionality is going to be very similar to what you have experienced in that QX80 and also in some Nissan products as well. On the left side of the screen will be quick access icons for your home screen, your navigation map, of course, giving you Google Map integration, your radio settings, then of course your Bluetooth connectivity, and then lastly is going to be your onboard assistant here. So if you have any things you want to say, maybe, turn on your heated seats, it will do that for you, which is really great to see. And lastly, at the bottom will be for all your widgets that are in place. This is very similar to Infiniti's older technology, just the way it's laid out here. You have your system information tab, GPS position, MyQ Garage, Amazon Alexa, then you have Google Play Store, Google Assistant, Maps. All of this is going to be right here within arm's reach. And I'm glad to see that Infiniti is starting to move in this direction. They need to do this to be competitive, not only against their domestic rivals, but also the Europeans as well. Now, taking a look at the camera systems for the QX60, especially for the autograph, you're going to have a plethora of camera angles to choose from. So when you are in reverse, a top view, then a rear backup camera with trajectory, also side views for your front tires, so that way you're not scraping those wheels on a city street, and then a 180-degree view giving you a lot more visibility. But it gets even better. When you place it in drive, now you have that front-facing camera, the top view, but for me though, it's going to be that 3D view. So you have a bird's eye view giving you a lot to work with here. And we have seen this numerous times in this segment, but it's just so great to see that Infiniti is starting to integrate this into their more affordable models. Then as you continue on towards the center console, you're going to have haptic feedback buttons here, but at least we don't have most of these features on the head unit like we are seeing from some rivals here. So from here, you're going to have the buttons and dials for your dual zone climate control up front, your AC, front and rear defrosters, fan speed, fan direction, also your ventilated and heated seats, and your heated steering wheel. The button for your massaging front seats will be found on the seat itself. So everything is going to be within arm's reach. You have somewhat of a tactile experience, and I personally think that this interior has aged quite well. Now beneath that, you are going to find a wireless phone charging pad with 2 USB-C inputs. Then you're going to have your gear selector here, which has been seen in Nissan and Infiniti products for quite some time. Your start-stop button, your drive mode selector, your auto start-stop. Then, I love to see this, even though a lot of manufacturers have moved on from this layout, you are going to have a dial here to go along with quick access buttons for your maps, your menus, also your audio and camera systems. And it's just so great to see that we have this dual functionality still. Audi moved away from this. BMW is kind of moving away from it. I think they want to move away from this. So I'm glad to see that Infiniti is still giving us this old school layout here. You're going to have your electronic parking brake and auto vehicle hold, then 2 cup holders. Then for the standard storage compartment, there is enough room for some smaller items, maybe a couple wallets, smartphones, or other tech gadgets. There will be a 12-volt outlet. Also, by going with the autograph, you have a digital rear view mirror. And lastly, above will be a panoramic moonroof, which brings in a lot of natural light to the interior. Then for the second and third rows, interior dimensions do go untouched for 2026. You can have close to 38 inches of legroom for the second row and at 28 inches of legroom for the third row. Now this is going to be very competitive with the Acura MDX. Now Lexus RX is no longer in this segment, so you will be comparing it to a TX, which is quite large and I think somewhat cumbersome, maybe a bit too big to be a direct competitor to the QX60. But you are going to have enough room here to accommodate average-sized adults in the second row, and I think smaller kids in the third row. Now, for second row passengers with the autograph, you are going to have heated seats, also climate control as well, and you will be able to adjust the fan speed and fan direction, which is pretty cool for the second row. You're also going to have 2 USB-C inputs, a 12-volt outlet. Now, these seats are captain chairs. They slide forwards and backwards on rails to maximize legroom for the second and third rows. You're going to love the fact these seats are somewhat supportive, and also they're very plush as well. Now there will be a center console for the second row passengers. You're going to have 2 cup holders here, and then a deep storage compartment for some smaller items, maybe a couple smartphones or wallets, just like we have up front. And then lastly, for the second row, you are going to have sunshades to block out the haters and also block out the sunlight if you are on your laptops or smartphones on a longer journey. Then finally, for the third row, just like we saw with the interior dimensions that have gone untouched, you'll have 2 cup holders on both sides of the third row to go along with a USB-C input. So that way you have kids in the third row, they'll be entertained on those longer drives. Unfortunately though, there is one weak spot here for the QX60 for 2026, and that's this turbocharged 4-cylinder engine. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with a Turbo 4, but a lot of manufacturers are dropping V6s and V8s for these Turbo 4s, and they can be fun, they can be exhilarating and exciting, but for the QX60, by losing the V6, it kind of loses its soul because you have a V6 in the Pathfinder. Now the Turbo 4 is rather quiet, it's docile, paired with this 9-speed automatic, it is quite smooth. Now also with the QX60 being designed for luxury and an upscale driving experience, it is rather soft, much like you're going to experience with a Lexus RX, that also has a Turbo 4. But because this vehicle isn't sports tuned, doesn't have other aspects that would draw you in, like say an Acura MDX or maybe even a Mazda CX-90, the QX60 is now forced to rely heavily on the luxury aspects rather than the engine that's powering this model. And that's where I think Infiniti went a little wrong here with this generation. Now, hopefully the V6 does come back, since Nissan is still sticking with the V6 in the Pathfinder. It would be a great re-addition or re-emergence into this vehicle. But for what we have here for 2026, is really nice. The autograph trim is exactly what you would expect for a crossover at around $70,000. The suspension is tuned quite softly, although you do go over the bumps and imperfections and you feel them a little bit. Not like you're going to find in a Volvo XC90, but it still does the job. You also need to factor in that you have a good amount of technology here. The semi-aniline leather seats are fantastic and really comfortable. Also a good amount of practicality. So it is checking off all the intangibles and must-haves in this segment, which is why the QX60 has become the best seller in the lineup. Also, by adding QX80-like styling elements and features, this now feels a lot more grand and upscale than last year. So let's get on the highway here. Let's see what the QX60 can offer us here with the Turbo 4. I'm currently in sport mode. Now, one thing I have learned here with the QX60 is that off the line it is slow and lethargic, but when you're moving, it is rather quick. A good amount of mid-range torque and power, which allows you to pass slower drivers with ease. And even when you're on throttle, the engine does not make a loud noise here. It's actually quite isolating being behind the wheel of this model. Even at highway speeds, not a lot of wind noise or road noise. This is really impressive. It has a nice composure on the roadways, despite the fact that it doesn't have a lower center of gravity. But with that lack of lower center of gravity, you have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roadways. You sit pretty high up in this model, giving you a lot of visibility up front. So it really helps out with that safety aspect. Now also, you don't really have aggressive A-pillars. They are pushed a little off to the side, so there shouldn't be any blind spots when you are approaching intersections or red lights. Also, your side mirrors are pretty massive here. Better yet, by going with the autograph, you have a digital rear view mirror, so you can see what's directly behind you, even if people in the second or third rows. And then lastly, let's go over the agility of the QX60. Once again, back in sport mode, the steering is firm, gives you some sense of feedback. And it's also helped out by this leather wrap steering wheel, which feels really nice in the hands. Aggressive 10 and 2 and firm 9-3 grips, and you have the paddle shifters to rotate the gears yourself. But even with a lack of a sports tuned suspension, I like the fact that this platform is dialed in quite nicely. Unlike the Lexus RX, which has become extremely soft now with the Turbo 4 and its new generation, the QX60 still has some playful tendencies to it, despite the fact we have a Turbo 4 as well in this model. The steering is very fluid, and you kind of forget the size of this vehicle as well. Now obviously it helps out that we don't have a CVT like you have or you had in the QX50. So you can really enjoy yourself on some winding back roads, on some longer road trips, and still be comfortable as well. So all in all, after this quick test drive with the 2026 Infiniti QX60, it all comes back to the new styling and some extra features for the interior, especially for the autograph trim. By giving this vehicle a more refined and upscale appearance and also a more inspiring driving environment, this vehicle now reflects the price point. Now all we're missing is that V6. But even with the Turbo 4, I think it should be more than enough for a lot of you looking for a 3-row crossover in this market. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this quick review for the 2026 Infiniti QX60 Autograph. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys next time.